Destination mark.
Hey guys, how's it going? Marcelo here, and welcome to the second episode of the Bandicast. Got an awesome guest today. So he's been in the crash scene for a long time. I met him, well, not so much as met him. I found out about him through Mario Party 9 a long time ago, and it was a really funny playthrough. So here is for the second episode, Tealgamemaster. How's it going?
Wow, I'm surprised you found me through Mario Party 9. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Love it. Love your stuff. Love it.
It was really funny because your Toad voice was amazing, and I was just... that's the one thing I thought was really funny.
Cool. That is the one thing I'm proud of, yes.
I'm not going to ask you for a demonstration. I'm pretty sure it's hell on your voice.
It actually isn't, because I've done it enough. So I've sort of trained my voice to do it. It's all about the way you sort of move your throat and your mouth. You sort of like...
Okay.
Smile so wide, but it's just like, yeah, no, it just doesn't hurt anymore. I can probably do it for about half an hour without feeling anything.
Oh, wow.
But then after that, it's just like, get all the drinks. Let's just give me a bucket. Okay, cool, let's go again, yeah! So, yeah, it's just fun.
Oh,
but,
boy.
No, that's an old playthrough.
I forgot
when it came out, I think.
I forgot how it was recommended to me, because it's not like I was, I think, actively looking for Mario Party 9 stuff. And Mario Party 9 is one of the ones if you know everyone's typical reaction to that particular game. But somehow it was just recommended to me. I forget how, and I decided...
I probably know why. One of the videos, it was Blooper Beach. I think it was Master Difficulty. That video has over 1 million views. And I assume YouTube put it on the algorithm or something, and it just showed up in the recommended on the side. I'm assuming. But yeah, it's interesting because it's one of those videos where it's like, oh man, that's awesome. I wish I was funnier back then, or I wish my quality was better. But that's really cool. At least it's for something that's actually half decent, and not like, cool, I uploaded a tiny bit of B-roll for this one game, and it's got over 1 million views. It's like, I love the fact that it's got 1 million views, and it's a game that's well-deserved, but it's also not my content, and I wish it was my content that I'm proud of that was getting promoted. But, it's whatever. I'll take it.
Yeah, it's really funny going back to seeing your old stuff that you've done, and you're like, critiquing yourself, like, okay, I could have said this differently, or I could have been funnier right here. This joke didn't hit the way I intended it to, and you start just micromanaging everything that you did back then.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I sort of got bigger through Skylanders because I was one of, if not the first to do it, just because no one else was doing it. And I was thinking I think the first video has over 800,000 views now. I'm not exactly sure. It's a lot. And it's one of those things where I was not as funny back then. The quality wasn't as good because I'd only just recently got... It might not have even been a Dazzle. It might have been an Easy Cap. So it was a really primitive piece of kit. And I was still very new to that kind of thing. So I was recording with a camera for years.
Oh yes, the camera.
Yeah, the fabled, horrible,
Point at the TV.
Yeah, I mean,
I've been there.
I used to have a static TV as well, so it was like lines flickering.
Yeah, so the CRT.
Yeah, it was quality. People subscribed for that. But yeah, so it's weird. I was thinking, oh man, if I was better back then, I might have grown a lot more and whatnot. It's always one of those things. But I did a series at the beginning of the year. I actually filmed and prepared it throughout half of last year, where I interviewed 14 members from Toys for Bob and one from Vicarious Visions to do a developer commentary of the first Skylanders game.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was to just... It's a series that I think doesn't get enough recognition for what it does and for how impressive each game is. And it becomes more apparent how impressive each game is as the devs talk about it. When they switch between Vicarious Visions and Toys for Bob, in terms of like the first set of games, they weren't using the same engine, so they had to remake all of the Skylanders that
Wow.
Vicarious Visions made. In a
Yeah.
year, in a year, they had to remake all of the previous Skylanders on top of new ones and make a game. And it's like, what? How? How did you find the time to do this? It's incredible. But it was really like just surreal because they were saying that they watched the Skylanders playthrough, and had I not made it, or had I not been the way I was, where I was just skeptical, and then I got into it and grew to love it, they may not have enjoyed it as much, or they may not have found me, or whatever, and then agreed to do the series. So it's one of those things where I was like, I wish I could have done things a little bit differently, but at the same time, I've gained so many incredible opportunities that is an incredible privilege. And yeah, I wouldn't change that for anything because it's awesome.
That is definitely what I'm striving towards, because I've been in the Crash rumor mill for about 5 years now, like covering all the stuff, like the news mill, rather, whatever you call it, covering the rumors and stuff and all the stuff. Like, I don't know if you remember, like that Japanese leak or whatever, where it was, I think it was Huge Adventure or XS, I think for you, going to the Virtual Console for the Wii U, if you happen to remember that.
Vaguely, yeah.
That was something that happened, I think, at the tail end of 2015, so that was one of the first things, I think, for Crash I covered. I had this weird mentality back then for this channel, because I've had numerous channels throughout the years, where I was, like, trying to figure out how to weave Crash onto the channel and trying to start, like, talking about the series, and there's a lot of backstory about that I remember covering in the last podcast. And real quick to those listening, I do want to say really quickly, there will be, I think, moments throughout all these episodes where I for one will be probably recapping and retelling a few stories here and there, because it's going to vary with each guest, so I'll be comparing my stories to theirs and all that stuff. But I've been doing Crash stuff for about 5 years now, and I have met a couple devs through online. I didn't get to meet a couple in person, like at E3 and stuff. But I don't have quite those opportunities yet, and I'm trying to figure out what I need to do to kind of get myself out there a bit more, you know?
Yeah, I think ultimately be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like your greatest asset is you. The content that you want to make, as long as you're passionate about it, people will care. And because you can see it. You like when you make a video or a series or whatever, as long as you really want that series to go out and you're enjoying it and well, whatever it may be, like, people will notice it. They'll even if they like, doesn't matter if you have a webcam or it's just a microphone, like everything that's in that video is you, and people will pick up on it. So it's like ultimately, I think, like, in terms of like growing as a channel and promoting yourself, like, it's always good to experiment with different things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just as long as you're caring about what you're creating, that's the biggest thing. And like, I don't want to be like the guy who's like the pessimist, because I prefer to be the optimist, but I do think YouTube is like 90% luck. You can have all the talent in the world, but unless you're lucky enough to randomly have a video pop up to the top for whatever reason, it's really hard to grow, especially with more and more people joining YouTube and becoming a part of this community or that community or whatever it may be. So yeah, it's very hard to grow on YouTube or Twitch or wherever. But I don't think it should ever discourage anyone, because it's creating videos or streams or whatever is a really fun hobby or job or experience. You can learn a lot about the industry and various video techniques and yourself, just by being a part of it and trying it out. Like, I mean, I've certainly changed as a person multiple times over the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, especially in terms of who I am, and also in terms of what kind of content I'm creating, like it's always gonna keep evolving. And it has to, because your content needs to evolve to sort of match what people are looking for at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's always. I guess that's just enjoy what you make. You be yourself. As long as you're not the scum of the earth, people are gonna love it. So, well, I say that I've seen some really dodgy people on YouTube and Twitch, and they do well. So, never mind. Ignore that statement. You'll be fine regardless.
Teal's life tips for becoming a well-known YouTuber.
Be scum. That's it.
Be scum.
That's the bottom line. I think that we just picked at the end. Yeah, there it is.
For the visual, for the watchers, they just put that on the screen. That's Teal's quote for the day.
Cool.
Speaking of Skylanders, though, real quick, which one did you start with? Did you start with Spyro's Adventure or?
Yeah, Spyro's Adventure.
Okay, I played that one on my Let's Play channel, and I was trying to figure out, like, because there was a time where, like, I just really didn't like the series, and at this point in time, I've got on record to say that I think it's okay now. You know, I'm not like still like super into it, but I've always appreciated certain little aspects about it. Like, I think the gameplay is just very, very clever, and it's a really cool way to get into different kinds of characters, you know, and whatnot, into the world and everything. I think it was more like just the marketing stuff, like buy the toys, that's what you gotta do, and that kind of stuff. So like you're buying like the $60 game, and then like you're spending a bunch of cash on stuff, you know, on top of that. So I don't know, like, really where it was that just turned me off for a while to it. But just, you know, now kind of getting into it's been what, like almost 13 minutes now that we're getting into Crash. But like for Toys for Bob, seeing how they started with that, and you would consider that kind of revolutionary for its time, right? Early 2010s, like that was kind of a revolutionary thing. Yeah.
I mean, it was they created a genre.
Mm-hmm.
Toys to Life wasn't a thing. And like, in terms of like what you were saying about marketing, like you're right, they was pushing the toys, but the thing I do like about Skylanders over other Toys to Life games is you don't need to buy other toys. Whereas Disney Infinity, you need to buy toys to unlock this level, or you need to. Lego Infinity, you need to buy this very overpriced Lego to get an hour-long level. And it's just like, okay, the level may be fun, but it's also just an hour, and it cost me £10. And it's like, okay, that's quite a lot. I mean, at the end of it, you do get a Lego figure, and I suppose actually that's like the incentive. Like the thing I like as well is, I guess, the figures are really nice on Skylanders. They're some really cool characters, and ultimately that's why I bought some of them. Not because it was a mandatory thing, just because like, oh, that's badass. I want that on my shelf. Yes. But yeah, I mean, it's. What was the original question?
Well, no, I was well, you answered when I was like, oh, you know, shit. What was the question? I'm drawing. It's hot in here. I've got to draw a blank. It being revolutionary for its time, and that was something that Toys for Bob like crafted, and I think like before that, we had like fucking Rob the Robot for the NES. That's about as Toys to Life as it got back then.
Yeah, I suppose.
But yeah, as we know it today, Toys to Life was definitely a Toys for Bob thing. So seeing that they did that, and then getting to revisit Spyro again for Reignited, and just the way they handled it was very well done for the most part, you know. And it was great. And now we come to Crash 4, where they took a look at how Insane did. They took a look at what they did for Reignited, and now they're kind of combining all that knowledge and for whatever else they've played in Crash prior from the series, and are trying to, you know, combine all that for this game and go above and beyond and set another kind of precedent for the Crash series with everything you can do that's new in that game. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add for Crash 4 before we get into like the main stuff?
No, I guess let's get into it.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a lot of generalized Crash stuff. And my first question is, what is your history with Crash? When did you first get into the series? And what was the first Crash game you ever played?
My first Crash game was Crash 2.
Sweet.
I got a PS1 technically when I was 3, because I got it for Christmas 3 days before my birthday. So I was technically 3. And it was I think it was a family friend who bought it for us. Because my family wasn't that rich growing up. In fact, we were super poor growing up. And we just had a family friend who was like, "Oh yeah, no, Teal would love a PlayStation, wouldn't he? Sure would." So she bought us a PlayStation. And it came with Crash 2 and Spyro 2 and Tomb Raider 3, and I could never get past like the second jump of Tomb Raider 3. I was bad at that game. But yeah, I got Crash 2, and that was my first. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Same with Spyro, because I mean it's Crash and Spyro. Who doesn't love Crash and Spyro? And then I picked up the first for each, probably maybe a year later. I don't remember exactly when. But at some point later. Maybe we rented it because Blockbuster was a thing back then. So
Yes.
I possibly I don't remember exactly, but I got the first one a little bit later, and they were harder, but I still enjoyed them a lot. And then kept up with the series ever since. I don't. In fact, I actually got a Game Boy Advance because of Crash. I was just like, oh my god, Crash on the go! Need it now! And then I got it, and it was fun. Because it's just that they're all good. They're all good in their own little way.
Yeah, because I have different stories with like each game that released after. I think I started following it around. See, as far as I can remember, as far back as I can go, I've been playing Crash. So I think we got our PS1 like in '97. So I was 2, and for as long as I can remember, it was the first couple Crash games for Spyro games. So I don't remember how I got into it. I just remember playing it. And I think I started actively following each game when I got Wrath of Cortex for Christmas. I think '01 as my first PS2 game. And then like with Twinsanity onward. Because like all the Game Boy stuff, yes, like Huge Adventure was my first Game Boy game. And then the other Game Boy games that came out after I got. But Twinsanity onward was where I actively was like, oh, hey, a new Crash game, awesome. I can't wait for it. And then, like... But even back then, that was, like, the mid-2000s, so YouTube still wasn't really around yet, and, like, any information you could get off games were, like, through websites and forums and stuff.
Magazines as well.
Huh?
Magazines as well.
Yes, definitely magazines. Funny enough, too, speaking of like Blockbuster, we have a Hollywood Video, and for Hollywood Video, they have the little pamphlets, little booklets, so you can see like what's upcoming, what just released. So they had movies on one side, and then you flip it upside down on the other side, and they had games. So that is where we saw Twinsanity, and I was like, oh my god, a new Crash game, and like I got so hyped for it. I also remember going on like Wikipedia and just dropping down to where all the links to the different games were. So whenever like something new appeared that wasn't there before, I'd be like, "Oh, there's a new game," and like, I think that's how I found out about. That's definitely how I found out about Titans. I don't know if that's how I found out about Tag Team Racing, but yeah, those are good memories. So, which Crash game out of the whole series is your favorite, and what are your favorite aspects about it?
Can I do a cop-out answer and say Insane Trilogy because it has the first 3?
That's perfectly fine, man.
Because yeah, I mean, like, I like certain movement traits of the originals, like the extreme spin slide that you can do for Crash 2, and for speedrun strats and stuff. That's really fun on the original. But Insane Trilogy is just awesome, and I love the fact that it's got Stormy Ascent, even though it broke me, and I love Future Tense. Future Tense is such a cool level.
Oh, it is.
I might go as far as say it's my favorite of the entire trilogy, just because it's taking what existed and completely turns it on its head, and it's just brilliant.
Yes.
I love it. I love that level. But yeah, it's just Vicarious Visions did such a great job remaking it, and I just love playing it. And I mean, I was surprised that it wasn't Vicarious Visions who were making Crash 4, but I'm not in any way disappointed, because I know that whoever it is, Vicarious Visions, Toys Bob, Beanox, whichever team is developing Crash or Spyro or whatever it may be, they're all going to just absolutely nail it, because they're all incredibly talented developers.
Yes.
So that's very exciting. But yeah, no, I just love Insane Trilogy, because the original trilogy just do something that the others don't quite capture. I mean, the series sort of evolves over time, or deviates, I should say, and becomes something different. And I like Wrath of Cortex more than most people. I enjoy what that game does. I certainly hate elements of it, but I like it. I like it quite a bit. Some levels are really, really well designed, and it would be cool to see them remade. But it would be cool if, as bonus DLC or something for Crash 4, one day down the line, it was just here's 2 levels from Twinsanity and a couple levels from Wrath of Cortex, and that's it. They're never getting remastered. Here's your lot. That would be cool.
That would
but
be
at the
cool.
same time, we don't need it, because we're moving on to bigger and better things, and that's awesome.
Yeah, that's the one thing I remember fighting for. There were a couple videos there that I made where I was like, okay, what I think, and a lot of what I think hypothesized has actually kind of come to pass, because I'm like, okay, thinking about this logically, they're only Insane Trilogy came out. It's already 3 games, and it's the ones that everyone knows. Whenever you say, "Okay, hi, person, Crash Bandicoot," they'll say, "Oh, the games from the PS1 were so good." So a lot of people, if you say, "Oh, hey, person, Super Mario," they'll go, "Oh, Mario 64, one of the best games ever made," and it's kind of just that what I'm looking for, instinct, just kind of say it, it's like a reflex, okay, original Crash games are awesome, so you get those. And then remastering CTR, I remember back then I thought it's not needed, because it's just a very base game. There's only so much that's actually in there for the original, but little did any of us know that they were going to add everything that they did, and so that's what jacked up the replayability. And I was like, oh my god, from the initial announcement trailer at the Game Awards, I remember thinking, because we did a reaction video, and then I was like, oh, there's the C and K cards, and then that just immediately got me thinking, okay, if that can't be all they're gonna do in terms of extra content to kind of beef up the replayability, what if we got new other characters, what if we got other, and while that was already kind of stated, we didn't know how far they were gonna take it. So the fact that we've got all the characters that we do is just crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, so for the remastered saga of Crash's Return, I was like, yeah, these 4 should be where that lies, and then we need to have something else afterwards for the Nitro Fuel was basically the transitional point, where it's look all the stuff they've done, look what they've added, and they brought back characters and other things they brought back. So now if anyone else who makes a new game wants to reintroduce that stuff into canon or into whatever, new people won't be lost on what this stuff is, because we had a transitional game that kind of was there to celebrate basically all facets of the freaking series, which we didn't know that was what they were going to do.
Yeah, Nitro Fueled, they really did treat us quite a bit. We got so much more than we deserved. It was incredible. And it's still something I play, not regularly anymore, semi-regularly. I played it non-stop every day or every other day, certainly, until the developer times came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the developer times were too hard, and I stopped playing a bit. Not because they were too hard, just because I got busy, I guess. But yeah, like I just stopped playing as much. But it's still an absolute joy to play. Like it's so fun. Like
It
online
is.
is always amazing. Even if people are really, really, really good and you stand no chance at times, it's still super fun.
And then they want you to like. There are like challenges that are like, oh, beat everyone with like one character like 5 times, and it's like I can't even beat them once. What do you want from me?
Yeah, that's not my least favorite. My least favorite challenge is back in the race. Start the last
Oh
lap
God.
in last and finish first. That is bullshit. Like without either everyone else being incredible noobs or wow, that's a word I've not used in years. Either them being noobs or like everyone like the connection dying and they just spin in circles. There is no way that's ever going to happen because that means all the first 7 need to be close together.
Hmm.
That's never going to happen. Someone's going to get smashed by a rocket and they're going to be miles behind, or someone's just not going to be as skilled as the others. Or like that's it's just impossible. And I'm surprised they brought it back. The fact that they brought it back in certain in certain Grand Prix was an outrage. But the balls of them to even bring it back again this time around, like it just updated again like 3 days ago or something. It's back. What are you doing? So yeah, that's kind of funny.
I remember someone found an exploit where it's like, okay, take like disconnect your internet, but you have to do it in a certain way, and then plug it
Right.
back in, and then like you have to do something or other, not reset the console, obviously, like do something to the console, make sure that you get your connection back up, it kicks everyone out, and then just blast your ass all the way into the third lap, and you'll already be like all the way in last, and then just try and get ahead of everyone before you. And it's like that's what, just so that
Yeah,
way you wouldn't have to face anyone who was good.
that's not a fun way of doing it. But I mean, if it works.
I was gonna say about Insane Trilogy. So, playing it for so long, and it's been out for about 3 years now. Can you find yourself going back to the original PS1 games and still being able to play them for how different they feel now compared to Insane?
Uh,
Is the muscle memory still there?
yeah, I played 2 once or twice. I don't think I played 1 or 3. I more just because it's convenient to play
Mm-hmm.
it on PS4. Like I don't have to plug in my PS2 or my PS3 or whatever. Like it's just there.
Yeah.
Or it's on PC or whatever. Like it's so much easier to get to them. Um, but yeah, I still they don't feel that different. I find there are certainly different little subtle differences which make them feel different, but like generally speaking, like it doesn't like it's not a problem. Going back is still really fun.
Mm-hmm.
They still hold up really really well. So yeah, but I haven't really done it too much.
Because a lot of people would say, um, they wouldn't go to the original Crash One because of how it feels and just how like notorious it is. But again, I grew up with Crash 1, so it's really hard. I'm not the right person to I think ask about opinions and thoughts on Crash 1 because I'm so like a lot of it doesn't phase me. I'm not saying that
Mm.
it's like easy, but like
Oh yeah.
even though like I think the best I've ever done was play the whole game in about over an hour with like one death, but um that said though, like it took me years to get there, like but it's the first game I ever played, so it's I'm used to it.
Yeah.
The way how slippery Crash feels and the save system and all of that, like getting the gems, it's not that big of a deal to me, but I can't speak on that in a general sense because there are not many people at all that are going to get that same kind of feeling. And I remember there was a thing that came out where Shuhei Yoshida, right when Insane dropped, he was like trying to recommend people that to skip 1 first and then go into Crash 2, so that way they can get a sense of how Crash feels, how the game plays. It's a bit more of like an ease into it, and then eventually head back to 1 because there are they say it's tougher when really like I think for Crash 1 there's just a lot of cycles and a lot of waiting for things, like patterns and whatnot. and there are a lot of them, a lot of these obstacles, a lot of hazards and stuff. Whereas there are sometimes I found like stretches in the levels, in various levels for 2 and 3, where you're just kind of going forward. Maybe there's a pit, you can just move over to the left and avoid, spin a thing right after the pit, jump over something. But then like in Crash 1, it's like, okay, there are like 5 falling platforms in a row, and then you have to wait for the fire, and then so like there's a lot more you're doing. I think I think Crash 1 keeps you very active, ironically, because then there are parts where you have to wait for cycles, but there's a lot more going on visually, and then in those moments where there's like a hazard after another, and then there's some enemies, versus Crash 2 and 3, where it's like, first off, Crash 2 doesn't even have any vertical segments, I think. They brought it back for Crash 3, but only in like certain, like in bite-sized bits. There aren't very many vertical levels like there were in Crash 1.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that, because verticality is a really interesting, like, template, I guess. Like, there's a lot you can do with a vertical level, but it's not done enough, strangely enough. Like it's, I guess it's just easier to have a flat plane, and it's like you don't have to think about going up, because it's harder to control, I guess, or harder to structure around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's weird that people said to skip Crash 1, because Crash 1, like, why buy the trilogy if you're not gonna play the first one? It's part of it. It's part of its heritage. It is the first Crash game, and like, I want to see people suffer on the high road. So, like, could you please play Crash 1 so I can watch that? Good, thanks.
High road, no rope trick.
Yeah, I mean, newcomers wouldn't know about that.
Yeah.
Or if they figured it out, it's hard to learn, like, to do it consistently.
Especially with the hitboxes. It's
Yeah.
one of those little differences they put in there.
Strangely enough, though, I can't do the rope trick on the original, but I can do it on Insane.
It's, I think, a little bit harder because of how Crash's airtime feels when you're trying to do a mini hop from the plank to the rope. I have done it in the original, but it is, I think for me, it's tougher to do it in the original than it is in Insane.
Fair enough.
Okay, so which Crash game is your least favorite? And what are your least favorite aspects about it? What makes it what aspects about it make it your least favorite?
Oh, I don't know. No, I don't. I mean, I'm gonna say this, and I don't even think it's my least favorite. I don't know. I'm gonna say. Oh no, it's Fusion. No, scratch that. It's Fusion. I hate Fusion. I was gonna say Crash Bash, and not because I hate Crash Bash. I actually love Crash Bash. But you need to understand. My friends Emil and I did
a 200% run.
A 200% run, and Skyballs Platinum.
Oh my god!
Took us, and I'm not exaggerating, 17 hours.
Oh my god!
But over the course of a year, because he lives on the mainland, I live on an island, so we couldn't see each other often. And it was basically just like we recorded a bunch of the game, and we spent 14 hours in the span of like 3 streams, like over the course of like 2 days, just trying it and failing. And we got close so many times, and then we have a series called Party Hard where we're playing through every single party game ever made in release order, and Crash Bash had to be part of it. And we're just like, well, we're in lockdown, so we can't. I cannot travel. You cannot travel. It is impossible. We need to get to it somehow. So we were just like, right, I'll play through it again on emulator. So I played through 2-player on my own, which is really hard. And I can't stress enough, impossible in some ways. And to get back to where we were, and we were just like, well, we're using Parsec. Let's just complete it. Let's conclude it before we get to the 2-player stuff. And then we did it, and we just magically beat it, like, in the middle of a stream, and we were just so happy, and we couldn't believe that we were free. But,
that catharsis.
Yeah, it felt so good. And, like, certain things that we found really hard, like Swamp Fox, I think it is. Like the platinum for that was really tough, and we were just, or like the gold was really tough, and then we came to do the platinum and we're just like, oh, this is easy. We were just really tired because we had recorded like literally like 40 hours worth of Crash Bash over the course of 4 days. We were exhausted at that point. That would do it, yeah. So yeah, it's I love Crash Bash, and I would actually love to see not a remake, but maybe like a mode of Crash Bash in, or something similar in a future Crash game. But God, I hate Crash Bash because of what it did to us. Either that or yeah, Fusion. I'm gonna say this, and I don't know if this is. I think it is kind of controversial. I have fond memories of Boom Bang, but, and I say a big but here, I don't remember anything from it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I just remember a purple dude who's the villain or something. And like a pizza minigame, and I think there's also a pizza minigame where you throw a pizza across a track and field event. I don't know. Like it's a blur. But I think like everyone hates that game, but I kind of remember enjoying it. And I don't know why. I think it's because I'm a masochist. It's gotta be that. I just don't know. So, yeah.
I remember it confused me. It just, I booted it up. I didn't know what to expect because that's an interesting story on its own. Way before getting a DS, I always wanted one when they were first coming out. After Tag Team Racing, I'm like, oh, new Crash game, and so there I was, and I'm like, okay, Crash Boom Bang for the DS. I'm like, I don't even have a DS. What the hell? And so like, it was one of the, weirdly enough, it was one of the consoles, one of the systems that like took me a while to obtain. I don't know why. Like, I guess every time I wanted to get one, they were just out or whatever. Like, I don't even know. But like, I finally got one, and then after I had finally gotten a DS, the DS games were starting to kind of fizzle out, so I wasn't seeing it on shelves anymore. And I'm like, okay. And that's before like we really got into like online shopping. So I didn't know to like look on Amazon or anything like that. I was just like, I guess I'm just not gonna play Crash Boom Bang then. And so like I went the longest time without playing it. And then going back, and once YouTube was, up in full force, and I was on YouTube and everything, and I started hearing people go, yeah, Boom Bang, and I'm like, oh, is it bad? And so then I forget how long ago, got my hands on it, and then I played it, and I'm like, this is weird. Like, it's just very confusing. A lot of the time I didn't know what was going on. I just saw character icons popping up and taunting me every 3 seconds, and the spaces made no sense, and I'm like, this is just Mario Party, but bad.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to it. Like, I mean, that game, in terms of the series, what I'm doing is like game number 120. So like in 5 years' time, I can't wait to get to it. But yeah, I remember not hating it. I remember enjoying it. So
that more power to you, man, because that's awesome.
We'll see if I still feel that way when I get to it.
When you return to it. Fusion's very interesting because, I don't know exactly what we were all expecting when we were like, oh, Crash and Spyro teaming up, and I'm like, all right, well, first off, that's fucking amazing, and then it's a minigames game, and I'm like, okay, like I for one really liked it, and so I have both of them. I think I've only ever beaten one of them, and I forget which one it was. It might have been purple. I don't remember, but I think what people really wanted to see, and I'm hearing it a lot, I think more so nowadays than back then, is that if there had to be like an official, like big crossover, like a bigger crossover between Crash and Spyro, nothing like we've seen in Skylanders or in Purple or Orange. Like, I think they say they want to see like a mashup of the two gameplay styles, but I'm like, well, the gameplay styles are very different. Crash is more reserved and linear, where Spyro's more open and explorative. So I don't know how you'd be able to do it. Like, you'd have to, like, for Crash, you'd have to, like, utilize some kind of either Twinsanity or Mind Over Mutant kind of mindset when trying to build something for Crash on a scale of Spyro. And for Spyro, it's just going to feel like Spyro, so I don't know what they would be able to do in that sense to spice it up. But, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I guess, like you say, Twinsanity, it sort of has that open world vibe would certainly bring the two together a little bit more. But it's interesting, Crash 4 is actually doing a lot to Crash's moveset with the grind rail and the swinging and the wall running and stuff. That kind of thing actually might work in a huge open space.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting. And, like, I don't know how they would do it, but it could be done in such a way that you're not necessarily playing together, or maybe you can in some cases, like where Crash and Spyro are together, but, like, it could be done in a way where, like, you switch out, so you push a button and it switches between Crash and Spyro, so, like, oh, sweet, like, I don't know how it would be done, but, like, oh, okay, so now Spyro's playing and Spyro can make it across this gap, and then and there's, like, a wall running section, you push the button and it switches back to Crash, and, like, it's like they teleport in and out, so it's sort of kind of like, I guess, Bugs and Taz Time Busters in a sense.
I was
sort
thinking,
of like that.
Oh, sorry.
Like,
I was thinking like Tack the Great Juju Challenge.
what game?
Tack 3, the Great Juju Challenge.
Oh, I've not played any of the Tack games. I've not even really seen anything. I tried to record the first one like 3 or so years back, but it was on. I was recording with my PS2, and my Hapage at the time just kept, like, corrupting the footage at any time a loading screen came up because it was a different resolution. And it was just like, can't do this. So yeah, I've never really, I played like 20 minutes and I don't really remember much of it, so, but I've heard great things about the series. I need to try them out at some point.
The reason why I brought up the comparison is because for the Juju Challenge, so the third game in the series, you can play as Tack and Locke. So you if you're playing one player, you switch between the two, and there are these like co-op challenges and stuff. And then if you're playing 2-player, then they did this cool thing where even though it's split screen, you can basically free roam around the level, except that it's still very linear. And when you're coming up to certain parts, like, you have to be together so that way, like, Locke can throw Tack up a ledge, and then he can go and activate a thing that busts down a door, so that both of you can continue onward. So there's a bunch of, like, co-op stuff, but there's a small sense of free roaming, which I haven't seen done in too many games in the way that game does it. So your idea of how Spyro and Crash would work in that sense kind of reminded me of it.
Yeah. Oh, I'd have to check that out. I'm intrigued.
It's interesting.
It sounds really cool.
It's a fun game. It's the one tag game of the main 3 that I almost beat with my mom all the way at the very end. We got very far, and then GameCube memory card got corrupted, needed a format.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh no, that sucks. I'm sorry.
That was a long time ago. We haven't gotten that far since. Okay, so there was this 6 to 8 year, however you want to look at it, whether it's console or the mobile games, gap of time where we had no Crash games. So what were you doing to fill that void where we didn't have any Crash? Were there any other series you were checking out? Were you just replaying the older games, or what was going on in your gaming world around that time?
I just cried for 8 years. Just constant sobbing. There wasn't a minute that went by where I wasn't just breaking down. Yeah, so I guess I love Kingdom Hearts. So I've played all the Kingdom Hearts series many times. I've replayed all of the Crash games and replayed all the Spyro games. I guess Skylanders came between them, so I played Skylanders. Around, when would this have been? I discovered it earlier, but I really got into it in 2014. It's the Persona series, or I
Nice.
guess Shin Megami Tensei, but it's Persona is the sub series, and it's now its own thing. So yeah, I love the Persona games. So like those kind of things are what I've uh been playing the most because like certain like Kingdom Hearts, uh like the Kingdom Hearts games. That's some of my favorite games of all time. Same with Persona 5. Like Persona 5 Royal in particular is the expanded version of it, and it came out this year, and it's just mwah. It's literal perfection. Like I was just like Persona 5 is a 10 out of 10, and then Royal came out. I was just like you've improved on perfection. How have you done this?
How's that possible?
It's incredible. It's an incredible game. If you're into turn-based RPGs or you want to try and get into them, that is the game to do it. Because it's not that punishing, but it's so creative, and it somehow makes school life fun. So that in itself must be commended. But yeah, no, they're fantastic games. Yeah, like same with Kingdom Hearts. So like I guess I'm here to be controversial. Kingdom Hearts 3, I think, is my favourite. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. A lot of people's complaints don't really hold merit in some regards because there are things that justify it throughout the series if you look for it. Sorry. I'm sorry. But no, the combat in that game is absolutely fucking flawless, so... I love it. It's so fun.
For Persona, I'm not really a fan of those types of games, but I have played a little bit of it because my friend G-Man Rocks had come over all the way from Massachusetts a long time ago, and he brought it over and we played it. And I remember when I first saw it, the visuals, it really struck me, and just how creative it looked.
Persona 5, or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't specify, did I? Yeah, Persona 5.
I did. I mean, it could have been any of them.
Yeah, I'm sorry. 5 specifically. So yeah, the visuals were striking, and it got me interested in trying it again, and because I haven't played it since. So to see if I can be eased into that kind of game, I had my brother get it on his own PS5 or PS4. Cool. PS4.
Wow.
Persona,
wow. I
Persona
didn't know
5.
your brother was so important in the industry.
Look, listen.
Your brother is the head of Sony, you say? Wow.
Listen, man. Persona 5, so you can see how I. Persona 5 on PS4. I had him get it on his own console, so we're gonna try it out at some point.
Nice. So when you say those type of games, do you mean like turn-based RPGs or just turn-based in general?
Anything. Well, there are only certain turn-based things I have played. Like I've played some Pokemon, I've played some stuff like that, where it's fast-paced enough to where it's pretty engaging, and I'm okay with it. But I feel personally that sometimes they feel kind of slow, and I'm looking for things to really do.
They can do, yeah.
So,
I think Persona is an exception to that rule. It's pretty fast-paced generally. Like there's a lot. Like it's depending on what difficulty you set it to. Obviously, you can set it to easy, and you can change the difficulty at any point. So like you can set it to easy, and if you're having too easy time, make it harder. Too hard a time, make it easier. Whatever, you know. Like I don't think anyone. I think there's a lot of stigma against. Oh, you're playing it on easy. Like who cares? Let them enjoy the game. But yeah, like so. Yeah, you can always do that, but the game certainly doesn't give you an easy time, like in the sense that like it's like it very easily teaches you how to play, and like it just doesn't really slow down once the game gets going. The biggest problem you probably have with a Persona game is it starts off slow, just because it has to establish a lot, and that's in any like Persona 4. You don't even get into a battle for I think 2 hours.
Oh wow!
So it, like, there's a lot of just story, but the story is like with each Persona game, you are playing an in-game year, day by day, and how you choose to do that day is, for the most part, totally up to you. Obviously, there are some days where it's like, right, this is going to be plot, you have to do that plot. This is going to be this event, you must do this. Otherwise, do whatever you want. Spend time with someone to do a job, go to a palace, do like whatever you want to do. It's up to you. And like that kind of game, especially particularly Persona, astounds me that it exists as a game because the amount of freedom you have in terms of what you can do, how does the game not get confused? Like, when you've got 200 days where you're doing totally random, not random, but like free will choices, how, like, from a day-to-day thing, especially late game, you could do anything from up to like 40 different choices. How does it know that you've done that specific like, that's insane. Like, every contingency is insane to me. Like, it's an astonishing game, and the story is always fantastic. The gameplay is really fun. Just, I think if you get into it, you'll really not want to stop playing, which is the great thing. But if it's not your kind of thing, then that's fair enough. But it's definitely worth a go since you have it.
Mm-hmm. So as you're playing all this stuff, and you had other things to occupy your time, did you ever, like, kind of in that time wonder whatever happened to Crash? Were you thinking, like, oh, well, maybe a game might come out eventually? Or did you know about all the stuff going on, like, with Crash Landed and the projects they were trying to do but ended up getting canceled, and you're like, I guess we're just not getting Crash anymore? Like, what's going on? Like, what was kind of your mindset on Crash?
Yeah. I've been following, like, little things here and there, like Crash Landed and PlayStation All Stars. People thought, oh, maybe Crash and Spyro is going to be in that, and then it wasn't. And I mean, you always hope that one day they're going to be like, surprise, Crash is back, and yeah, it's not really within your control. That's down to whoever ends up owning the IP. And thankfully, Activision has been like, you know what? Let's give it a go. Because I mean, the thing is, remaking Crash was a gamble.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of fans of Crash, but if it's just not the right time, then it's gonna flop. It's gonna get sales from the people who are diehard fans, but that's not enough to sustain or make a profit.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, it did way beyond what they were expecting. Same with Spyro, and hopefully that's just, they're gonna keep that momentum going. And like, I think what Toys for Bob are doing is incredible, and it's absolutely not slowing that momentum down. If anything, it's building it to a grander height than we could have ever predicted, which is awesome.
Yes, definitely. I remember when all those, other little rumors and stuff and all the little teases were happening. Around that time, we were all trying to kind of formulate, like, okay, what way would Crash even return? I remember we were thinking, should they just reboot the series? I remember Andy Gavin put his point on that and said, yeah, there could be a reboot, so you can, kind of modernize the classic story for, kids for today. And then people were trying to get Crash as more of a, instead of a guest character, like a regular character for a new Skylanders game. And there were all these different kinds of things. And that remaster was on the table. We just didn't know that was what they were going to go with. And I was thinking, well, a reboot could work. And I still think one could. Now, at this point, now that we've got Crash 4, we need to see how Crash 4 is in its entirety before we think anything past Crash 4. Because when we were still in, what would happen if a new game, kind of territory, we didn't know where it was going to go. We didn't know if there was going to be some sort of either soft or hard reboot that would reset everything and reintroduce the characters again, or what. There were many open paths for them to take. There were many differing ways they could have gone. And even back during the revival phase, before Insane was a thing, we were trying to figure out how can we open that door again, or how could they open that door again, and what would be, from our perspective as fans, the best route for the series to take in coming back after so freaking long. And I am glad that, Insane served its purpose to be that revival point It's celebrating 20 years. It's the classic games you remember, but buffed up for PS4. And it was very smart. It was a gamble, but it was very smart because they were playing it safe, bringing back the classic formula after not having it for so long, and not only reintroducing all of us back to it, but introducing it to the younger generations and all that. Because I remember when Jimin and I were hanging out, we went to our local GameStop, and we were looking around, and then we were about to leave, and I saw these little kids at the kiosk playing Insane, and I had a fucking Ratatouille flashback to when I was that little playing Crash. I'm like, oh my god, this is what I want to see more of. This is it. This is what they wanted to achieve with the revival, and there it is, right there, and oh, it was the greatest feeling. I mean, it might have been weird to see that some fucking 20-year-old watching kids playing Crash Bandicoot, but just being able to divulge into the nostalgia of how I was that little playing, and seeing these little kids like trying to figure out how to make them spin and jump over oh god, it throws me right back, because those memories, for me anyway, are somehow very fresh for being in my single digits back way 20 years ago, and still having memories of like my grandma saying, hey, maybe you should press square, and there we go, spinning the little wooden platforms to jump on them in like the Great Gate. Like figuring that stuff out was just such a fucking blast, and seeing little kids do that 3 years ago with all new updated bumped up Crash Bandicoot, I was like, that is something. It hit me in the feels. It was really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
But to cap it all off, we gotta talk about Crash 4 and everything we've seen. We're gonna date this a little bit. Yesterday we saw the state of play and saw all the newer stuff for Crash 4. My question is, how excited are you, and what aspects are you looking forward to the most? Not that excited.
I don't really care.
Yeah, not very. Nah.
It's alright. It's just a new Crash game. Doesn't. Of course I'm excited. I'd be more excited if it wasn't midnight for me. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm excited for most. I think inverted or however they want to.
Those are fucking. Oh my god, man.
So, like, it's incredible. So I want to preface this with a bit of news that came out before, which was supposedly there's over 100 levels in the game.
Mm-hmm.
The inverted is interesting. So what it does is each dimension, they phrased it, I don't know if that's level or set of levels, they have a different, I guess, graphical filter or of sorts. And I feel like that's not giving it enough credit, because like some of them's like wireframes, and then like the pirate level, it's the entire world is black and white, and you're coloring in the world. That's so cool. But like,
have you seen the Blob before on the Wii?
Yes,
it's like that.
Yeah, it is a bit. But yes, so like each level's that, but each level is also mirrored, so
yes.
It's gonna feel very, especially on the 2D sections, it's gonna feel very weird, I think, because especially if you've been playing the levels a bunch of times for like a relic or something, your muscle memory is gonna be attuned to something completely new, which is really gonna mess with you. It's like mirror mode on Crash Team Racing. My brain knows the original tracks. I can't. But it was interesting. Go back to the 100 levels thing. Is it 50 levels twice because it's mirrored, or is it 100 levels twice? That is the question that we don't know yet. And it's going to be interesting to find out. But it's also, unless some other news has been brought out and I don't know, like, it'll be interesting to see what they do with like relics and gems and stuff. Do you have to collect the gems and the crates and whatnot in both versions, or just one to get the gem? Or with the relics, is the relic in one version to get the relic, or is it a separate relic for both? Because they are technically two different experiences at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what they've done for that. But my God, it looks so cool. I'm so excited.
It's good. Oh.
What about you?
I have my reaction up right now, and I was just so blown back that every time we see this game, there's just more to it, and there's still more we haven't seen. And the difference between Crash 4 and something like with Insane or CTR is that Insane and CTR are remakes of games we've already played. We already know what to expect for the most part. Here, this is entirely new territory. We have no idea what they're going to be adding. We have no idea how many more characters besides Dingodile that got revealed, in that state of play are going to be playable. Like, we can theorize, and Tana might be one, and all that stuff, but we don't know until we see it and how it's going to play. So they're teasing the damn fourth. Was it Akano, the fourth Quantum Master? We haven't seen him at all, so it's like, what? He must be really damn cool then if they're teasing him and not showing him off right away with everyone else. So like, there's still so much, and what we've got so far, it's impressive. I'm digging it. I'm digging it a lot because that replayability is something I look forward to. Those inverted levels reminded me of the musical, the 8-bit versions of the musical levels in Rayman Legends. So
a little bit.
Those were a blast to run through, and you don't have to run through them, but for the replayability, they're there, and they're a little bit more challenging. They're super cool, and this is definitely invoking that for me personally, and I'm digging it. I'm totally gonna be playing those levels.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen, like you mentioned, the mask. We haven't really seen any of the bosses besides Engine briefly. Is there another boss that I'm forgetting? But is that the only one?
I think that's the only one.
Yeah, I don't. Unless I'm forgetting something. So that's all we've seen there. Like you mentioned, there might be more characters that are to be revealed, that are playable or just non-playable. We know there is some kind of multiplayer mode.
Yeah.
We don't know what that involves exactly. It might be like a race kind of mode, so like 2 to 4 people can race a level or something. Or it might be cool. A party mode like Crash Bash, and if it is Crash Bash, I will genuinely freak out. But it's going to be very interesting to see just how much is left to be revealed. And I hope they don't reveal too much, because at the end of the day, they haven't actually shown off too many levels. They've shown a bunch of levels multiple times. And it's also possible with certain levels, they're a later part of an existing level we've seen, but we just don't know because they look different or whatever. So like we won't know until we play it or see the whole thing or whatever. So yeah, we've not seen too many levels, and it's quite exciting to just see that how big this game is, and it must be close to completion because it releases October 2nd. For it to be put on discs and for people to get it for reviews and etc., we're really looking at early September, very early September. Like realistically, I'm gonna say 10th for the absolute latest. So like, because that gives 3 weeks essentially. So it's close. It's less than a month basically until it's finished on their end, and it's obviously going to be a very busy time for them, and I wish them the best of luck, and I hope that they don't have to work too much overtime or too much crunch or whatever. I hope it's just a very smooth development period. Yeah. But this game is also massive, so hard to say what's going to happen there, but oh man, it's something special. I wasn't expecting Dingodile at all. I wasn't expecting Inverted. I'd hoped for more skins, but who didn't know? And isn't it crazy that we're in an industry where you have to now state that it's not microtransactions?
Oh my god, yeah. At first, when it was, because that was what opened up State of Play, when that happened, I was like, oh, okay, sweet. And I'm just thinking, oh, because of the fiasco with the Wumpa coins and CTR. And then I forget which other game did it later in the presentation, and I'm like, okay, I guess this is going to end up being a thing people have to state now. And it's like, how about we just start slowly getting rid of them and you don't have to mention it because
Yeah.
a game should be a complete game by the time it comes out, and anything else you want to put in after needs to come after. And that shit's been shady for like well over like a decade or two or however long now. So it's been a thing, but for it to hopefully start dying down, it's just really weird that they have to go out of their way to be like, okay guys, no MTXs in this, it's fine. I do hope that I'm sure they've given themselves enough time to develop this, because what I want to know is the time span from them finishing, from Twisted Bob finishing Reignited to then getting the go ahead from Activision to work on a new Crash game. So,
Yeah.
because like from that, day in the office where they're like, oh, Snap, we're working on a new Crash game. Oh, and then they start making the ideas and doing all that. From whenever that point was to now, it's like it's well over 2 years, which I think, as far as everything for Crash and everything, 2016 onward, that's been like the longest I think amount of time they've gotten to a developer has gotten to work on something for Crash thus far.
Yes. I mean, we don't know exactly how long Vicarious Visions had. I'm guessing it wasn't a huge amount of time. Same for Spyro Reignited. I'm guessing because it was pushed back
Yeah,
by a couple months. I imagine before the pushback, it was barely over a year. Which is for 3 games or 2 because they outsourced it to Zanzaro. But like for 2 or 3 games, a year is insane. Like especially when you like with something like Spyro, the scope of it in comparison to something like Crash. Like no disrespect to Crash at all, or but like Crash has multiple of the same level. It reuses themes, it reuses enemies, it reuses. Spyro has none of that.
yeah,
That's so
yeah.
much work. Like it's what, like 400 NPCs, like 4 different types of enemies per level, like completely varied levels as well. Like, that's ridiculous. Like there's so much stuff to do. So yeah, like and this Crash game is, I think, going down that route. I don't think it doesn't look like it's repeating any themes. With the, I guess, if you want to make that argument, the Crash and Cortex levels, Cortex being in the same area or the same level, but just in a different part of it. So I guess it reuses assets there, if you want to be pedantic. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's also its own thing, so it's whatever. But like, yeah, it's just they've had a lot of time. I'm guessing they either were told just before or asked just before Spyro wrapped up and started working on it after it launched.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe they probably got a break. They would probably be like, "Hey, you've been working on this game non-stop for a year. How about you have a couple of weeks off, all of you, and have a nice vacation?" I would hope
Yeah.
that they did. Have a breather. I know that they definitely had to fix stuff for Spyro because there was a patch in like March, I think, like March, so like 4 months after launch.
Something like that.
They had that patch. But I mean, they would have been working on Crash during that time. Some people would have been working on Spyro, some Crash and whatnot. But yeah, it's interesting. Like Beanox helping with the inverted stuff makes a lot of sense when you've like see like they've stopped Grand Prix. Now we got this because like the velo times and the developer times, and the characters and stuff. It's certainly hard work, but it's much easier than making an entire track and coding AI to it and all that jazz. Doing a track is very hard. Making one a month is really hard as well. But like, so it makes sense for they had stopped for a bit, and worked on Crash 4. Because like in terms of how Crash Team Racing is updated, it hasn't really updated in 5 months, 6 months, 5 months.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It hasn't had anything new. It There's no new characters, no new anything, and that's fine. Like there are apparently, according to the data mines, if they are accurate, there are more characters coming at some point. But that's I can understand why it's not now because they're kind of busy, and I do wonder if they specified Beanox was making it because people were going to ask about Crash Team Racing.
That's what I feel. Yeah.
Which is a smart move because, and like, if anyone ever complains at Beanox for stopping updating the game, like, they're gonna have to move on to something eventually. They've done so much work for us. Like, it's like the fact that they gave us the velo times and developer times and so many more characters. I love the crate. The crate's so dumb. It's amazing. Like, that's a gift. Like, they didn't have to do that, but they did. Like, it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome.
I think too, like, the fact we were getting monthly updates with the new characters, the new tracks, the new everything, and that was going on for the better half of like nearly a year, and so it makes sense that number one they would be asked to do something else for Crash, aka Crash 4. It gives them time to kind of take a breather from CTR, so that last update with the crate and lab assistant and everything, that's there, and now that we've got this breather. Yes, if more stuff will come eventually, and they can have something later down the road that kind of bookends CTR with some kind of big update, then cool. But we need to give them some time to get there if that's what they're planning, because every month we've been expecting something, and we've gotten that since it launched. But now that we've got the next big Crash thing, CTR will always still be there, and the updates and the content will always be there. If you have an internet connection, but it's all there, and we need to appreciate how much they've put in, and if there is anything else that comes later, they're gonna need some time between doing stuff for Crash 4 and finishing that up, to bring that to us if there's anything else.
It'd be interesting to know like how long it took to set up each Grand Prix. Like it came out a month after the last one like started. Like it was like. I know it wasn't on the 1st of each month, but let's just say, for example, 1st of June, 1st of July, 1st of August, etc., etc. Did it take 2 weeks to make everything ready, and then like they were a month ahead or half month, or what? Like, be interesting to know how far ahead they were. Like in particular, like with the final one, the Gas Moxia, like. Did they have that? Because when did that come out? Was that February? Like, did they have that finished, say, December, and then they were working on Crash 4 since then? Like we have no idea how long they spent on it all, but it'd be interesting to find out at some point, like one day down the line, just to know how long it takes to set up something like that, because it's really interesting. It's so much work, and it's so. Yeah, it's just fascinating. I love hearing about development stuff like that, and I understand that. I imagine like a lot of companies don't want their secrets being spilled, especially so soon after it all happened.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool someday down the line to be like, oh yeah, no, we made this Grand Prix in this time, and then we'd done this Grand Prix in this time. We knew about this Grand Prix beforehand. Yeah, it'd just be interesting.
Yeah, no, I love developer commentary stuff too. I would definitely love to pick Beanox's brain about that stuff. It's very interesting to me. Oh, is there anything else you want to add? We've had this conversation's gone so many directions.
Yeah, I don't know. What are you hoping to see that hasn't been revealed yet?
Oh boy. Well, definitely Akano. They teased him in State of Play, and I really want to see what he can do. I've been trying to think in my head what with all the other masks and what they can do, and it's bending reality and time. What could and there are certain little bits about all of their designs that kind of give a little bit of a hint to what they do for the most part. So I'm wondering, he is the most simplistic in design. And I want to know, since he looks very kind of chaotic, like what could his abilities possibly be, and how
nukes the world.
He's just a big time bomb.
Yeah, just You collect him. The game ends. Well done. It's actually a trap. You're supposed to avoid him.
He's worse than the Nitros.
Yeah, no, it's death for all, not just you.
Besides that, I would like to see either like since we've already seen a little bit of Engine's boss fight. I would like to see some gameplay of it, or what any of the other bosses might look like. Like, are there gonna like? Will we have any original boss fights with new characters and new threats, or are we gonna just have? Will we fight Dingodile at some point, as well as get to play a level as him to have his introduction into the story and all that stuff? I would definitely like to see how certain characters like that are going to be introduced and then weaved into the main story, because that is like the most interesting aspect of this game that no Crash game before has ever done. So that is a very intriguing concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just more levels. I just want to see different levels.
Yeah. What strikes me about the levels is that they look really hard. And not in like a oh, this is too hard, but like when you look at just what Crash is up against in the levels that we're seeing, and these levels don't look like Endgame, but they look super challenging, like more so than what you normally see in Crash early to mid game. So it's quite exciting in that respect. Like, if this is hard here, what is late game going to be like? What is a bonus world going to be like? If there is a bonus world, like, you know, like I really hope they have a Stormy Ascent type level.
Yeah.
Where just like, yeah, you know what? This level is 5 minutes long if you're running through it at a super fast pace. We want you to suffer, like, at all times. So have fun. I want that. I don't know why I want that, but I want it. It'd be great.
That's something I was going to actually mention when you were talking about Future Tense. I wonder if Toys for Bob looked at the way Vivi approached that kind of design for a Crash level, because as we were saying before, it's taking what we know the Crash formula to be from the old games, but really utilizing his abilities, his super moves, all that stuff to their fullest extent, and to extents that we've never seen in the original games or up to Insane prior. And so I wonder if Toys for Bob took a look at the way that was approached and made the entirety of Crash 4 that, because you're seeing moments like in the Eggipus dimension where you have to, like, you're floating on these molten rocks on the lava, and you have to, like, there are these arches that are way too low, you can't jump over them, you have to slide underneath them and jump up, and then there are spitting little fireballs coming out, so there's a lot you have to do in that segment alone. And like, it's really intriguing because it's really utilizing certain moves, certain moves, and it's marrying that with that kind of, you know, difficulty or, you know, action, like I was saying, with the OG Crash 1. So it's kind of partnering how Crash 1 was structured, sort of, with his abilities and whatnot from, like, 2 and 3 onward. And that's really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wonder if members from Vicarious Visions went to Toys for Bob briefly. Like, they were just, like, either to help design certain levels because they had experience, or they just migrated over. It'll be interesting to eventually find that out, because I know that happened with Skylanders. Like, Vicarious Visions and Toys for Bob, people who worked there just went from company to company and just worked there for a bit, just because it was convenient. So yeah, I don't know, but it's very exciting.
It is. I can tell you sound incredibly tired. I know our time zones are way different, so I'm thinking you want to sleep now.
I'm not that tired. I'm just trying to be quieter.
Get your thoughts together.
I don't want to wake up people.
Are there any last minute stuff you want to add real quick?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, then, plug yourself. What you got going on? What do you want people to see? Which I'm sure that if they're watching me, they probably already know who you are, but plug yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I have a bunch of stuff. My channel's sort of evolved this year, I guess, where I've been doing a bunch of different things. Like I've been doing more reviews and a series where I sort of call it Teal's Tales, where it's basically just telling a story that's gaming related or covering a subject matter, and it's usually trying to be. It starts as a subject and sort of evolves into talking about a different subject underneath the surface. Just because it's fun to write that kind of thing.
Nice.
I've got the Party Hard series where I'm going for every party game, which is going to take a good decade or so probably. I think there's 184 games on the list. And I've done the most ludicrous amount of research into this. Like I there is no stone unturned on what party games are there. Though there are exceptions that are all like certain games aren't there. Like for example, Rhythm Heaven. There's a version where it's like a mishmash of the best. So the earlier ones aren't being done because they're basically that one's the best version. It makes the most sense to just do that one. Otherwise, you're just playing the same game twice. Like stuff like that. There are exceptions. But yeah, we've got every game. It's gonna be a trek. Well, I mean, like, we're on Mario Party 3 right now, and soon, once this is done, we're getting into the oh god, what are these territory?
Sounds like fun.
I'm looking forward to it because I know everything that's on this list, but my friend Emil, who's also part of the series, has no idea, and like there's some real shit coming up. So I know what the games are. I don't know what they're like. I've done my best to avoid anything about them, like besides knowing that it is indeed a party game. And even like party game is a loose term. Like if it's strictly mini games, so like Crash Fusion, for example, is not strictly a party game. It's a mini game compilation, which isn't the same thing. So like it's so weird because like that's not a party game, but WarioWare, which is also just mini games, is. So it's just like wow, like it's a really weird, like broad term. But whatever. So yeah, got that. Yeah, I guess that's I do new playthroughs. I cover new games. Much like you, I cover Crash stuff. So yeah, just a bunch of stuff. Oh, I guess I've done the if I insert subject matter, the video ends. Those videos are really fun to make, and they always, even if the ending isn't like me freaking out, it's usually funny for just a different reason. Like maybe I get cocky and then it just ends. It's just entertaining. So yeah, they're quite good, but it's by no means I did not create that series. There are others who have done it before me. But I just loved the concept of it, and I just wanted to try it. And it's very fun. But yeah, no, that's my shameless plug. Thanks for listening. Plug yourself on your own channel. Go.
Yeah, okay. Watch Bandicast. Listen to it. No, yeah, anyone who's just coming in for the first time, whether you're fans of Teal and you haven't seen me before, yeah, I cover Crash stuff, Spyro stuff. I try to stream every week. So we're currently in an Uncharted kind of marathon right now. We did the first game already. We're on the second one. And then next week, or however this is going to, when I don't know when this is going up, when the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 demo drops, I'll be doing that.
Oh, nice.
Because I'm hyped for that. And, yeah, sometimes I'll do thoughts videos, reactions to trailers and stuff, discussion videos. Just go on the channel and check it out.
Yeah.
Playlists are a thing. Subscribe if you want. I never ask anyone to subscribe. That should already be a given if you want to do it. Yeah. You don't need me to tell you.
No,
But
but
yeah.
you need me to tell them. So yeah, subscribe.
This has been a fun discussion, man. I've enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you for bringing me to your channel. It's been awesome. It's been
Yeah, no
awesome.
problem.
Everyone subscribe. Do it.
You're 2 for 2 now. You've been on Spirocast and now on the Bandicast. Now we just need someone else to make like a Kingdom Hearts cast for you to be on.
Excuse me, Croccast.
Croc. There you go.
Legit, really want a Croc free. I love the Croc games.
I have.
Who has the rights to that? Can Activision buy them?
I have some memories with Croc, like the first game I have on disc, but it got like hella messed up, so I bought it again a few years ago. I forgot where I got it from. It must have been like a magazine. I got the Croc 2 demo disc, so it was like
nice.
a demo disc solely with just Croc 2 on it. But I never really got too far in Croc 1, and I never owned Croc 2 in its entirety.
Croc 1 is a hard game. I like a lot of people don't like it because tank controls, and what I like about Croc 1 is it just has these like circular, they're more like octagons, but they're circular platforms. There's a recurring thing. What I'm astounded by is it creates, how many levels is it? Like 36. No, it might be over 40 levels, I think. Yeah, actually, well over 40 levels. And it has these same platforms, but they do so many different things with just a circular like there's like 100 different uses. It's like, how have you done that? Like, that's really good level design. Like, it's really impressive because they're clearly on a very tight schedule. They don't have a big budget, and yet they've just used a circular platform. It works. It really works. It's really impressive. And Croc 2 has a much bigger budget and more time, and it's awesome. They have a lot of really creative level structures, which, again, I don't think is given enough credit. Actually, like, going back to the verticality, they have a level where it's simply called Up the Waterfall, where it is a vertical level of ascending a waterfall, and it's really cool. Like, it's got some really great level design in it, and I don't think it gets enough credit for how cool it is. Hard as balls, but it's really, really fun. So, yeah, no, Activision, get on that. You have absolutely no reason to do it, but do it. While you're on it, remake Toy Story 2. It's a great game. Yes. It's an amazing game, amazing 3D platformer. Buy the rights to Tumby or Tumba in the US, please. just bring back my childhood.
Yeah.
We need it now.
Bring back iNinja. iNinja's good.
iNinja? What's iNinja?
God. Exactly, right? That's what everyone fucking says. iNinja, what is that?
Teach me.
Well, funny enough, it's also an Argonaut platformer, and it's on PS2,
oh, really?
PS2, GameCube, Xbox, I believe. Very fucking good game. I've actually, funny enough, back on topic before we end off, I did compare the wall running in Crash 4 to the wall running in iNinja, because you can wall run in that same kind of way. You use your chain and you grapple on rings. You can use your sword to hover over gaps. It's very combat centric. It's like a beat 'em up platformer. It's so fucking good, man.
Cool.
It slept on so hard. Yes, definitely. It slept on so hard. Actually, we're doing it. Another plug. We are doing that for Vid Games FTW, my Let's Play channel, currently. So that is, we're bringing that game back up on the spotlight for our channel. Cool. It's been a long time coming. It's so good. I would definitely recommend you check it out.
Yes, I shall. I'm very intrigued.
I think that's about it, though. So there you have it. Bandicast 2 in the books. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching. There's not much to watch. It's just one static image. But if you've watched the static image for this last hour and a half or so, thank you guys so much for doing so. And until next time, I'm Mark.
And I am Teal, and if you've watched this static image for an hour and a half or so, you've watched it for another day because it is burned into your PC screen. You're welcome.
Sweet. See you guys later. Take care.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
No problem.